This is yet another tiny 50-watt Class D amplifier for everyday use. Arylic makes a few different versions of these. I just reviewed the A100, which is more of a stereo receiver that has a bit more power on board with an integrated power supply. This one is smaller with an external power supply and a bunch more features on board. Now, with Arylic sending this product over for a review, like all of these smaller Class D budget-friendly amplifiers, it does get left behind. I get to keep the product if I want to keep it, or I just re-gift it to one of my friends. But they don't get to see this review before it gets published, nor do I actually want to sell you a false bill of goods saying this is the best thing since sliced bread. These are just my honest thoughts of using this product over the last few weeks. And of course, if you wouldn't mind just liking this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification for notifications. It'll help me out a ton, help me get more products like this in for review. I'd really appreciate it. Cheers. This is touted as an AirPlay 2 amplifier. It works with Alexa, Spotify Connect, and Tidal Connect. It has an ESS 9023 Sabre DAC, a Qualcomm QCC 3040 aptX HD Bluetooth chip inside. The latter supports Wi-Fi 2.4, 5 GHz, and Bluetooth 5.2 aptX HD. It has a decent 50 watts ×2 with load switching for 4 ohms and 8 ohm passive speakers. It supports Apple Music, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, Qobuz, Internet Radio, TuneIn, and more. It costs $249 US with a 24 volt power supply or $289 with a 32 volt power supply. So in all, it's a pretty well-rounded device. Oh, wait, I forgot to look around back. Around back you get, aside from the aforementioned Bluetooth, you get phono, RCA, optical in, HDMI, network in, USB for a thumb drive, USB-C for connection to a DAC. That's a ton of stuff in a really small product. I mean, what's to really say here? It is a small, relatively inoffensive looking black box. It has a power supply that is external, and that power supply is about half the size of this unit. This came shipped with the A100, and that has an internal power supply. Compared to the A100 that this was sent alongside, it's downright small, but I do much prefer the integrated power supply of the A100. I just think it looks better, and it doesn't leave you with this giant power brick dangling everywhere. I'd rather have the unit slightly bigger with an internal power supply. That's all I'm saying. On the front, you have the power toggle switch, a 2.23-inch OLED display panel, and a multifunction volume knob. Like the A100 that came shipped with it, it does come shipped with a small, cheap, plasticky remote. It's nothing to write home about, but it does work. But as you'll find in this review, I barely used it. The first place I set this up was in my bedroom, connected to my TV with audio coming from the Apple TV 4K. And I've always been looking for a compact solution for my bedroom. Usually when I get products in, I either run speakers in my bedroom just because I have limited space in this condo and I can't always run everything in my office. But also selfishly, when I'm watching TV late at night when I can't sleep, I want a compact solution for that space. And my bedroom's about 9 by 9, maybe 10 by 9. It's really small. And having a large product to power speakers is just kind of an unruly proposition. And I do it because I have to sometimes, but having a compact product there where I'm not overly nitpicky about the sound, I just need good enough or passable sound in my bedroom, this is a really good use case. The first thing you need to do, though, is get the firmware updated, because if you don't, there is a weird audio sync issue happening over HDMI. And I mean, you could watch TV like that if you're a psycho, but why would you do that? Just download the firmware, get that sorted so you can watch TV, watch movies in your bedroom. Now, admittedly, I used it in my bedroom for the first few weeks of having it. It was so good for this purpose that I didn't want to move it from that position. Here I used it with some speakers that I really wouldn't recommend you do. The ELAC Unify Reference, the Bucart P300s, the Martin Logan F10s, and the Q Acoustics 5040s. All of these speakers worked really well for low-level listening at night or early mornings, but I did also use the Q Acoustics 5010 in my bedroom just to give more of a real-world scenario for this. And then I also use the 5010s here in my second setup on my DJ stand. And that's where I have the product right now. Again, live in a small condo. My studio slash office is a fairly small place as well. I have two IKEA Kallax bookshelves horizontally placed just behind me, and those actually creep over about half a foot into my kitchen just because the wall's small. But I have it over here as part of my DJ setup connected to my Pioneer DJ-M450 mixer to it. Here I got to try out a few different speakers. Along with the aforementioned Q Acoustics 5010 was the ELAC DB63s and the Totem Loons. And for the sub, I filled in with the Q Acoustics Sub 100. Now, I should note that if you came here looking for a review where they test the crap out of it, they push it to its limit, they A/B it against far more expensive gear to see if Class D is really the way of the future, I think you've come to the wrong place. I've learned over the course of doing these smaller budget amplifier reviews that pushing it to its limit to see if it matches up to its spec is kind of missing the point. It is an inexpensive unit that has a ton of functionality that generally sounds pretty good. And I just daily drove it to see if it actually works for day-to-day usage. And in my bedroom, as part of just a simple 2-channel TV watching setup, it is such an easy recommendation. If you're looking for just that purpose, this works no problem. I like the fact that it has an ohm switch on the back, so I can use speakers that you wouldn't normally pair this with. I paired it with a bunch of different floor standers. I believe the 5040 is a 6 ohm floor stander, and this amplifier was able to just power it no problem. And if you're looking for an inexpensive amplifier to put in a second room, again, easy recommendation. It's good enough to enjoy TV and movies in a bedroom or an office in a small space if you are not nitpicking. Now, the caveat here is no, I'm not taking it to reference levels. No, I'm not pushing it beyond what I think it's capable of. I'm just using it for day-to-day situations, and it does work perfectly well for that. What I did in my bedroom was I just flipped on the switch to power on the unit, and then I just leave it on the whole time. Then I simply use the Apple TV remote to power everything on and off. I can even control the volume of the unit, which is really nice. With the Q Acoustics 5010, a smaller 6 ohm speaker, I'm able to push them a bit louder and crucially get them close to what I recall hearing when I had them connected to the A100. Now, the sound is a touch thin in comparison to the A100. In my view, the mids are just missing something, a bit of life or sparkle or richness or something. But it does work with the Go Control app that all Arylic products work well with, so you can affect tone controls. If you use them sparingly, you can get it closer in sound to the A100. If you were to, in my view, unfairly compare this to the Rotel A8 or the Cambridge AX835, those just sound better top to bottom overall than this does. But if you implement a subwoofer and then crucially just set the cutoff on your subwoofer a little bit higher than you normally would to help with those low mids, it just makes everything sound a bit better, a bit fuller overall. And again, I'm going to go back to this. If you're not nitpicking too much, you just listen to some tunes, watching a movie, watching TV, it's completely passable. As part of my DJ setup, again, it works really well. Connected via RCA, it's kind of awesome. Here I decided to connect a few different things, a thumb drive, the CXC CD player. I also tried connecting one of my turntables directly to the phono input. Now, ordinarily, I connect the Alva TT V2 turntable from Cambridge Audio as my turntable of choice to a phono stage on an amplifier like this. And I do this because the inbuilt phono stage on the Alva is amazing, and comparing it directly to an inexpensive amplifier would be a way to talk about how maybe there is a slight drop-off in sound quality. But for this extremely biased review, I decided to go directly from one of my 1200s and connect that to this amplifier. And honestly, going from my mixer to this inbuilt phono stage, I didn't notice a difference at all. So either that speaks to the quality of the phono stage in the H50 or the fact that the Pioneer isn't a great phono stage / preamplifier. So take that for what it is. But I will say that if you do have a budget turntable and you're looking to connect it to a budget amplifier, then this one is good enough. And I think, my apologies, Arylic, but I think that good enough is a great way to describe this product. It's a full-featured product with a bunch of connections that are all good enough. This isn't a product that I would look or advise people to iterate on. I wouldn't buy an external phono stage. I wouldn't buy an external DAC to look to improve its performance. If you're looking to improve the performance of this product, just get another one entirely. I think that's the best way to go about this. Just enjoy it for what it is, and I think you'll be happy with the results. But also, having it here in studio, I can Bluetooth my laptop to it, and I can also stream off SoundCloud to it, which is awesome, up until yesterday, where SoundCloud just up and decided to add two-factor authentication to my login, where I don't have Google Authenticator, and I'm essentially just locked out of SoundCloud. So screw you, SoundCloud. I did try to mess with tone controls via the Go Control app, but I ended up just leaving it flat. Tone control just sort of boosts things in an unnatural way, and it just doesn't sound as awesome to me. Of the speakers I connected, the Totem Loons and the ELAC DB63s were my favorite pairings. The ELACs have a bigger scale and are rather easy to drive, not to mention being cheaper. On the streaming front, you get 4Stream, that's their streaming app, their interface of choice. I stream off Spotify, so I end up just getting kicked back to that to play all my music. But on my DJ stand specifically, I'm always standing up when I'm mixing records, and the speakers are never at a proper ear height. They're always 1 to 2 feet lower than my ears, maybe even more. And they're just there really to, again, provide a good enough sound when I am mixing records and when I do step out of headphone land. And am I on beat? Am I off beat? How am I doing? That's what the speaker is there for. And if I am feeling the vibe of the song or whatever, I do step back a little bit. But again, it's not at ear height, and it doesn't really matter there. And that's my real world usage of this. But when I am in my studio working with music streaming off my laptop to the H50, the speakers are closer to my ear height there, though my back is to the sound. And I do, again, get a good enough sound in my 9x9 studio that I don't find to be offensive in any way. So, plus points. Multi-room is something I tested out when I did the A100 review. I had the A100 set up in my kitchen / living room makeshift setup, and then I had the H50 in my bedroom. And what I typically do, or did, was listen to podcasts, because when I am cleaning up my condo, I don't want to miss a word by being in another room, and multi-room was great for that. I will say that there was sometimes a slight drop-off because the Wi-Fi signal in my bedroom isn't as strong as the one in the living room. If you have the opportunity to hardwire these to your network, I would recommend it, or at least make sure you have a Wi-Fi signal or one of those things where they bounce the Wi-Fi around different rooms. If you have those, it'd probably be better. But yeah, if you have the ability to hardwire it. It'll probably get better multi-room audio than I did. So if it's features you want, this is a unit that's all about features. If you want HDMI, you want optical, you want to be able to connect everything that you own to a small, inexpensive product, this is the one to get. If it's all about sound for you, I think there are better options. I like the sound of the A100, though it doesn't have as robust a feature set as this one does. There are, unfortunately for this product, so many other products out there that have a similar feature set. I just reviewed a stack from SMSL that has HDMI on the preamplifier. It is 2 separate boxes. The sound isn't too far off. If I'm being honest, they're both kind of classy. They're both kind of thin sounding, and you do have to muck with the tone controls a little bit to get them to sound close to what you want. But I will never claim that you can muck with the tone controls of this unit to get it to sound on par with something like the Rotel A8 or the Cambridge EXA35. Those are full-size Class A/B components. They sound better overall, fuller, richer, warmer, and I feel I'm more comfortable pushing those components to their limit versus this product. But I don't feel like disparaging this unit against those is the right call, even though I sort of did just now. For what this product is, if you're not looking to nitpick it, you need it for a second room, a bedroom, an office, even your garage. It's a great little unit to have on standby. And because Arylic sent this over for my review, for my honest thoughts, and I get to keep it, it's most likely going to stay in my bedroom because it's easy. And I like easy. Thanks for watching.